Hey, 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 hey. Who's with me? Bitsy Loo Hoo. How are you? Ooh, I'm just now reading. Is the music okay? Is it too loud? I found some upbeat music. Okay, cool beans. Cool beans. Alrighty now. This is a new voice that I'm trying out, but not tonight. It's got to be that right character. It almost sounds like a Yoda. I'll call this my Yoda voice. Also, kind of sounds like maybe Bert and Ernie or something off the Muppets. Maybe some, I don't know. Hey, Miss Sarley. Hey, Ori. Oh, let me get Jackie on here. So I finally decided what I'm gonna put on my porch. I'm buying a day bed and then getting day bed cushions and back pillows and stuff to put on there. So I can get all that cheaper than I can most anything else. So that's what I'm gonna put on my porch when I get it all done. I'll have to take pictures and shows you. Oh my. Look at this curly mess. Just curly. Do we know if Tempi's gonna be here tonight? Jackie! Glad you could join us. Okay, if you're watching and you see this, tap. Or tap again. Tap. And then there's the chat. Jackie is in the house. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Or if you can message Tempi, or do you know if Tempi's gonna be here or not? I don't know, but I don't want to wait any longer. Of course you are, Jackie. This is kind of a reverse harem series with some trigger points, and sounded like something you might cry about, so probably you just laugh and keep going. All right, it's called Laces. A Boys of Hawthorne Asylum series. Prologue. Ew. DA's daughter, declared legally insane, will join the legendary 3 at Hawthorne Asylum by Samantha Malley, the Weekly Inquirer. Gabrielle Evans, the stepdaughter of Charlotte District Attorney Joseph Evans, was declared by a judge to be mentally unstable Thursday morning. The 19-year-old was taken into custody shortly after 10 a.m. and hauled away in a police cruiser while a crowd of 50 or so looked on from the courthouse. One thing I gotta do is get this gum in my mouth because I didn't bring anything to drink with me. Oh, I'm much more exciting than the ex. Sex with me probably be better too. Just saying. The 19-year-old was taken into custody shortly after 10 a.m. and hauled away in a police cruiser while a crowd of 50 or so looked on from the courthouse. This news comes exactly one day after a grand jury dismissed murder charges against the district attorney in the death of his stepdaughter, Elizabeth Evans, who was found in bed, unresponsive, at the family Charlotte estate 6 months earlier. Regardless of the fact if Gabrielle was telling the truth about what she saw that night, or if it was something her mind conjured up to deal with the traumatic loss, we might never know what really happened. What we do know is the statement she provided to the prosecution does not match up with the evidence. Sheriff Thompson said at a news briefing, when asked by a reporter to elaborate, oh, that's a good place for that new Yoda voice, isn't it? Let me read that again. Regardless of the fact if Gabrielle was telling the truth about what she saw that night, or if it was something her mind conjured up to deal with the traumatic loss, we might never know what really happened. What we do know is the statement she provided to the prosecution does not match up with the evidence. Sheriff Thompson said at a news briefing, when asked by a reporter to elaborate up on the last part of his statement, Sheriff Thompson didn't hold back. The evidence doesn't lie, people do. Hey, Maria. Ms. Evans initially claimed that she was hiding in her sister's closet during the murder, but later retracted her statement when her mother told prosecutors that they were together that day visiting a close friend. Sources say the close friend even validated the claim, which didn't aid the prosecution when the time came to get an indictment. Joseph Evans' attorney, Thomas Newman, issued this statement today. Attorney Joseph Evans is an upstanding, valuable member of our community. Oh, let me get this one. Get my lawyer voice. Hey, everybody. And we don't allow hiders in here. You can't hide. Yes, Maria, I said your name, sister. I put you in the spotlight. And Jamerson, A.J. Clark, you can't be hiding. We don't have hiders on here. No. Attorney Joseph Evans is an upstanding, valuable member of our community here in Charlotte. He has gone above and beyond during his 20 years of public service, and the accusations that were brought against him in no way reflect who he is or the work he has performed for the community. He is eager to get back to work and return to some normalcy. He would like to thank everyone for their support during this trying time and ask that you respect his family's privacy as they try and move forward in the next stages of healing. Though it hasn't been confirmed by Charlotte officials, sources closely connected with the case say Ms. Evans will be admitted to Hawthorne Asylum in the coming days. The mental hospital is well known for housing notorious high-profile patients, such as the legendary 3, and has often been criticized for its unorthodox treatment methods. Comments, 2,513. Mad at you. Damn, Judge Wexler threw the book at her. Ruthless. Pumpkin Bliss. Nothing to see here. Just another rich girl screaming for attention. Jordan Skies. Housed with the legendary 3. You act like that's real punishment. Us women know better. Rolling on the floor laughing my ass off. Maria, 7210. I volunteered to be locked up with laces. Gemma Light, 12. Laces is so fucking hot. Marie, 7210. Yes, he is. I would sleep with all 3. I don't give a fuck. Darwin, B89. Strange what women find attractive these days. Kelly D. Clove X. Do they provide condoms in the nut house? Asking for a friend. Marie, 7210. This. Hey, Veronica. Yeah, somebody might have to. Let me give you directions to find in case she's having a hard time finding the chat. All right. Tap there, and then there's your chat. Chapter 1, Gabrielle. I always thought the first time I stripped would be for a man. Nothing big, a little decoration here and there, a pair of sexy underwear, and Usher's sweet voice to drive it home. Did y'all know that Usher was born and raised in my hometown? Well, not my big hometown. I live in a little bitty hometown, but my big hometown, Chattanooga, that's where he'd be from. Jamerson, do not be retracting messages. We don't go for that. All for nothing. You go all out, or you don't go at all. Get them, Vincey. Jeans. Let's see. Jeans, shirt, flats. Everything has to go. Nurse Klein said, sounding unmoved as she peeked over her tablet. Shell-shocked, I was still standing in the same corner of the small room, shoulders slumped, bug-eyed, mouth hinged open. Has it really come to this? Did you hear me, Evans? Her mouth, I could see it moving, the angry expression spreading across her pores, but I still couldn't make sense of it all. She wants you to strip. Yes, take everything off. What for? On any other day, I would have been able to connect the dots. When I didn't immediately obey her command, Nurse Klein tucked the tablet under her arm and cocked her head to the side. Examining me from head to toe, she said, You are Gabrielle Evans, correct? I didn't answer. The tablet was back in her hand so fast and she was scrolling down to the bottom. You know what? This would go a lot smoother if you would at least acknowledge my questions. She took a quick glance at me. You are Gabrielle Evans, correct? You were ordered here by Judge Wexler until the doctors on staff deem you are no longer a threat to society. All I could do was nod. Yep. Her eyes were back on her tablet as she mouthed, Okay. Pointing at an empty plastic tote near the door, she said, Put your clothes and shoes in there. Excuse me? My stepfather, Joe, was probably cracking jokes at that very moment, proudly reminiscing about my takedown with all of his lawyer buddies. The image of him toasting and taking a swig of his whiskey with the rich bastards that had aided in my inevitable downfall was almost too much to fathom. Evans! Oh, Jamerson, I can see a beat down coming for you, sweetheart. Mm-hmm. You don't belong here. Evans! Pursing my lips, I tore my eyes away from the tablet and looked straight into Nurse Klein's watchful gaze. I knew deep down that my current dilemma wasn't her fault, but that didn't stop the thoughts running through my head. She was admitting me to hell and therefore was a part of the problem. He did it, I finally said with conviction. Whether or not she knew what I was referring to, I didn't know or care. I needed to speak my piece on the matter. Ignoring me, she jerked her chin toward the tote again. Put all your stuff in there. With a heavy sigh, I bent over and started to remove one of my flats, but stilled when I saw Nurse Klein slapping on a pair of white latex gloves. Oh no, my brows drew in. I could hear my heart pounding through my ears, feel my hands trembling in midair. Only when she proceeded to grab the KY jelly did I finally speak up. Wait. What are you doing? What do you need that for? I already knew, but was holding on to hope that maybe I would be the exception. Hey, there's Miss Tempi. She made it. It's protocol. No one enters Hawthorne Asylum without passing inspection. Like toothpaste, she poured a generous amount of the clear liquid on 2 bony fingers and smirked at me. It'll be quick. I don't think so. I didn't think. I didn't speak. I just acted. 1 second, I was standing in front of Nurse Klein, contemplating the integrity of my nether region, and the next, I was a football star, faking to the left and right, snaking around her small frame, and darting for the wooden door. Calm down, Evans! Relax! But it's too late. I'd already flung the door open and was racing down the sterile white hallway, arms pumping back and forth, my years of running track being put to the ultimate test. The intercom sounded right as I raced past what appeared to be the nurse's station. Code red, floor B. 3 orderlies scrambled to get out of their leather chairs as their leader shouted off rapid fire instruction in his radio. Get a drink. Everyone was glaringly white. Everything was glaringly white. The floor, the walls, the ceiling, the desk, the smell of ammonia slammed into my lungs, briefly catching me off guard. But I forged ahead like a wild animal, zigzagging through the long hallway. Code red, floor B. She is not sticking those sausages in my butt. I roared at the ceiling, hoping there was a camera, whoever was behind it would see. She will not violate me. It was a bit melodramatic, I admit, but my ass was on the line. Literally, everything played out in slow motion. I could see myself running, see the patient shooting me curious glances, a mixture of interest and fear entering their eyes as they realized what direction I was heading toward. The cracked door at the end of the hall, I pegged it as my safe place the second I saw all three orderlies hot on my tail. Shit, she's going to laces, I heard one of the orderlies shout right as my black flat slid across the marble floor. Thrusting my arm forward, I grabbed the doorknob, stumbling on shaking knees as I attempted to regain my balance. Hell no, you don't want to do that. Listen to me. And get two fingers shoved up my ass. Hard pass. The choice was a no-brainer for me. Once I caught my bearings, I lunged into the room and slammed the door behind me, my back sliding down the cold metal as my knees slowly collapsed. My hands tended over my nose. Shh. Breathe. You're mommy's little bumblebee. You're a bumblebee. Yes, you are. You're a bumblebee to the stars. You're a bumblebee. Yes, you are. You're mama's little bumblebee. I hummed the song at least 3 or 4 times while imagining the secret closet in my old basement. Safe, secluded. Whenever my nerves got the best of me, the small room hidden behind a wine cellar became my refuge from any and all chaos. It has seen me through some dark days. You shouldn't be here. No, I repeated the same chorus a couple of more times until my heart found a steady rhythm, and then opened my eyes. Orderlies were pounding on the door, the vibrations of their fists slamming into my back as Nurse Klein begged for me to come out. But I barely heard anything because of him. He was lying back on his twin bed in the furthest corner, his attentive blue eyes peeking over the sketch pad in his hand. I've seen a lot of men in my lifetime, a lot of attractive men. The guy sitting on the bed was not a man. No. The very word seemed offensive for someone of his caliber. He looked like a model that had just stepped off the runway in Paris. Long, silky black strands falling into his eyes, thick lips, and a taut, lean body. His arms were well defined, each muscle curving smoothly into the next. He was a vision, like one of the men on my grandma's favorite romance novels. And I'd like to say that I played it cool, that I rose to my feet and put my best Southern manners forward and extended my hand and introduced myself as the newest patient of Asheville's most notorious asylum for troubled youth. But my eyes started to wander, and the sketches hung around the room suddenly came into view. Dead women. Dead women everywhere. My throat constricted. Oh, God. My eyes flew every which way, taking in the scene before me. All of the Hannibal Lecter-like sketches proudly displayed around the small, confined space. Oops. I had picked the wrong room. Clearly. Suddenly, I felt dizzy and hot. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted Hannibal Sketcher as he rose from his bed. The shadow of his 6-foot frame towered over me as I scrambled to find the doorknob behind me. No, 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 no. The word help was on the tip of my tongue, but it never made it out. My heart was in a new state of panic. my breathing ragged. My eyes rolled back and my body suddenly turned limp. The last thing I saw before the darkness overtook me was the floor rushing up to greet me. Chapter 2, Laces. She looked like a scared kitten that had just escaped a potential downpour. Her wide, brown eyes were blazing with fear, her arms and legs shaking as she tried to process everything. I'd seen that kind of fear before. The my life is over, what's the point in trying fear that seemed to fill the air when no bright light could be found at the end of the tunnel. For 4 years, I'd watched it suck the life out of my mother, watched her die right before my eyes, and though I knew it was useless, I'd fought tooth and nail to bring just an ounce of her light back. That was what drew me to her in the first place. The need to protect her, to guide her through this hell, seemed to overpower the walls that I'd built around myself to keep my human instincts at bay. The urge to reach out and touch her, to ask, no, demand what was wrong, paralyzed me. In the 2 years leading up to her arrival, I'd made peace with my situation. It wasn't the life I'd pictured for myself, but was definitely better than the life I had grown up in and been forced to accept. The tip of my pencil had punctured my sketch pad, creating a small hole in the arm of my latest sketch, resembling a mole, but I didn't give a damn. Not today, anyway. Her eyes roamed over my body, stopping at the pencil pressed deep against my forefinger. I wondered if she would start singing again or break out in prayer, which was customary for newbies. Both seemed plausible, but instead her eyes slowly drifted to the wall to a land of death and despair, and what fears she had entered my domain with escalated to catastrophic proportions. Fuck. Lifting my palms, I carefully rose from the bed, my sketch pad and pencil clattering to the floor with a deafening echo. My mouth open. The word easy was poised on the tip of my tongue. But before it could pass through my lips, her eyes rolled back and her lifeless body fell to the floor. Are you fucking kidding me? I muttered under my breath. Normally, women were throwing themselves at me, proposing fucking marriage, but not this one. This stray had cowered away and completely shut down. Where is the camera when you need one? Oh. Where is the camera when you need one? My buddy Reyes chuckled from behind. I glanced over my shoulder to see him curled up in a dark corner, an apple in his hand. Taking a bite, he gestured with his chin toward the scene displayed before him. Smooth. Very smooth. I rolled my eyes. Fuck off. She saw you coming from a mile away. No, I don't want your autograph. Get me the hell out of here. Reyes snickered. She's a smart girl. I like her. I shot him an arrogant grin. Maybe she fainted because of me? Did you ever think of that? I challenged, knowing damn well that was not the case. My ego had taken a major hit, and I was grabbing at every straw in the bar. At the bar. She's probably never seen this much man. Didn't know what to do with all this masculinity. Reyes' eyes flew over my shoulder to where Stray's lifeless body laid. He smirked. Oh, she knew exactly what to do. Trust me. Fuckwad. He gestured toward her body, which was splayed out like a chalk outline at a crime scene. You better take advantage of your muse before Klein sends her lackeys in here and trank guns ablazing. How can you think about art at a time like this? How can you not? And when I didn't jump to get my sketch pad, he shook his head in dismay. A knowing grin spread across his lips. She had fallen to the floor on her side, both arms clutching her chest, one leg shot out like someone who had tried to run. Had it been anyone else, I would have dropped to my knees and started sketching away, letting the strokes take me to a place that made sense. But I couldn't do that with her. I didn't want to. For the first time in a while, I wanted to feel something, anything. I wanted to embed this memory into my brain for a rainy day, just in case I got a wild hair in my ass in the future and wanted to feel it again. As I enclosed the space between us, the voices in my head started their provoking pleas, demanding I shut it off, but I couldn't. I was too far gone. Kneeling down beside her, I made a mental note to retain this in my memory. Her jeans, black flats, and checkered button-up blouse. Even the stray hair that had gotten trapped in the corner of her pouty lips, committed to memory. With twitchy fingers, I reached forward to brush away the strand, but caught myself when Reyes warned from behind. "You'll lose points." I looked around at the empty room. Who's going to tell? The women on my walls? They're already dead. Everyone had that one friend, the one who couldn't live just to live, who couldn't take risks without evaluating all the small details. That was Reyes. But Laces, what if you fuck her and she ends up pregnant and births your firstborn in the nut house? He said that very phrase on a constant loop when I first started inviting women to my room for a little Humpty Dumpty. There you go, Vincy. You and Nina can start calling it that. He was always worried about the consequences and couldn't see the worthy opportunities when they presented themselves. Like now. I had an opportunity to get up close and personal with a newbie from the outside, and all Reyes was worried about was a few damn points. A pirate grin crept across my lips. We weren't allowed to touch other patients at the asylum. It was near the top of the rules list, right below trying to butcher your wrist with a plastic fork and calling your buddy on the outside to come up with an escape plan to get your ass out. I'd never given a damn about the rules or trying to obey them. So starting to give a fuck now seemed pointless. I looked back at Reyes. His curious eyes were trained on me with a hint of confusion I didn't quite understand. Moments ago, he had been urging me to sketch, but now was silent. "You're not going to try and stop me?" I asked. Out of the three of us, Reyes, me, and Thorne, Reyes was the closest one to sane, according to our charts. He was the paranoid one, the serious one, the one always trying to keep us out of trouble. He was the conscience we never had. And during times like this, I depended on him to pull me back to my humanity. But he seemed in no hurry to do that. Taking another bite of his apple, he chewed, watching in silence as I gave in to my urges and stroked a piece of her soft, curly brown hair. It was stupid needing Reyes' supervision for what most thought was a basic task, but it was a necessity. The one thing I'd never learned in life was how to stop, how to just throw in the towel and give up in order to move on. My brain didn't know how to process the end. It couldn't accept defeat. All it knew was how to keep fighting, like I had with my mother. It was a trait I applied in all aspects of my life. And this moment was no different. At this moment, that was part of the reason I was at Hawthorne to begin with, obsessing over stupid shit. And at the moment, I was obsessing over the texture of the curly strand in between my fingers. Let go, I heard Reyes whisper. Don't think about what you want. Think about what she wants. She is unconscious, Lay says. It'll be okay. I can handle it. That was a lie, but it was a worthy one nonetheless, at least to me. I wanted to let her go. Really, I did. I knew letting her go was the right thing, the humane thing. Women like her and men like me didn't belong together. I was fearless, careless, and above all else, reckless. And yet, every time I tried to release the curl to release the sweet, intoxicating scent that eluded her, something would pull me back. The curly strand, the way it was tightly wound around my fingers, forced other urges to come to light. My eyes fell to her hands, clutching her chest, her pale fingers shielding her breast as if they knew I was coming. Reyes was right. Smart girl. I want to see her palms, I said, looking back at Reyes. His eyes had widened to the point I swore they would pop out at any moment. Her hair is nothing but a tease, all right? If I'm going to do this, I want to fully commit. And again, obsessive issues. Spoken like a true psychopath, Reyes mused. I shot him a go to hell look. My ass was never getting out of Hawthorne anyway, so I might as well make it worth my while. It was a terrible mindset to have, one that Dr. Young has spent the last 3 months hounding me about in therapy. But right then, I didn't give a shit. Like a caveman that had just discovered his first pussy, I spread her arms open and took it all in. Her milky white skin and the bluish veins leading up her forearms. Somewhere along the way to my room, she'd cut her wrist and a pool of blood had begun to form in the crook of her elbow. It was then, while trying to search for the source of the bleeding, that I noticed the branded JE initials on her wrist. How did you brand yourself? I whispered to her. I'd seen many cuts and burns pass through the asylum, but never a brand. Branding was for cattle, a permanent way to show what was yours. Trailing my finger over the welt, my heart picked up a little speed at the thought of this petite woman sitting in her room, sock shoved in her mouth, the smell of burning. Like a loyal hobbit, Reyes popped in. What are you waiting for? She branded herself, I murmured. Reyes set his apple on the floor and jumped to his feet. Making it to me in 2 quick strides, he said, That's her problem. Let her go. 2 swift knocks came at my door, followed by Nurse Klein's voice. Gabrielle, come on out, honey. Gabrielle? Reyes cursed. Ignoring Nurse Klein, I hastily grabbed Gabrielle's right wrist and turned it over, inspecting it as I had done with her left. There were no markings, which was weird. One arm was beautiful, the other tormented. Why would she brand herself with JE? It doesn't make sense. I shook my head. Cutters are wild. They don't give a fuck. Stop obsessing, Reyes whispered with a hiss. He grabbed a handful of the back of my hoodie and yanked me to a standing position. My brain was still a hazy shitstorm of thoughts from the emotions running through my mind. The stray, my mother, Nurse Klein, the branding. Placing both hands on my shoulders, Reyes squeezed hard. Listen to me. Nurse Klein is outside your door. I blinked twice. Okay. But the branding. Reyes tapped the side of my head. You have a library of Playboy magazines laying around your room. My heart stopped dead in its tracks and my eyes widened. Oh, shit. Oh, shit is right, my friend. My fear of solitary outweighed my need to hold on to Gabrielle, yes, but I refused to leave empty-handed. As Reyes started shoving the magazines underneath my bed, I snaked a pair of scissors I had hidden in my mattress and made quick work of parting Gabrielle's hair. "What are you doing?" Reyes whispered with a hiss. Like a conveyor belt, he slung another magazine under the bed. "Solitary is waiting outside your door. We don't have time for this shit. Fucking crazy ass." Yes, I was. I've got it. I've got it under control, I shot back. "Bullshit. Let her go." "I will as soon as I cut this," I swore. "You have to look at this from my point of view. What if she doesn't talk to me? What will I do then?" Scoffing at my friend, I turned to Gabrielle and, like a crazed barber, used my fingers to pull the curly lock to an even angle. "This will tide me over until I can figure out my next move." Reyes' hands flew to his head. "Easy, Sweeney Todd. Are you even listening to yourself right now?" Scissors ready, I cut a thick, curly strand from her hair and quickly shoved it into my pocket. That was rude. Cars on my highway are just making too much noise. Another knock came at the door, along with a final ultimatum. "Gabrielle, if you don't come out, we're going to have to send security in." I didn't feel the slightest twinge of remorse for cutting Gabrielle's hair. In fact, all I could do was smile. Fucking smile. Even after the orderlies broke through the door like the Secret Service and pinned my face to the floor, my lips kissing the scuffed surface's ass, all I could do was smile. Chapter 3, Gabrielle. "I look like a doll." "But a beautiful doll," my mother pointed out, reaching for the big red bow on top of my white dresser. She had found it at a thrift shop at the beginning of the summer and was saving it for just the special occasion. Staring at my 4-foot reflection, I watched as my mother pulled a few auburn strands away from my porcelain face and smiled at her handiwork. "First impressions are important, Gabrielle. It's your first day at a new school. You need to look nice." I crossed my arms and huffed. "I don't want to wear my glitter shirt." My mother had fixed my hair up that morning. I didn't know where she got it, but the red dress she was wearing looked like it cost $1 million. Her once fuzzy brown hair was now curly and shiny. Her face painted up like one of those ladies we always saw going into the expensive purse stores. We could never afford to buy anything from there, but that never stopped us from standing outside the window and pointing at the different purses we would buy when we won the lottery, or, in my mother's case, won a rich man. Even as a naive 10-year-old, I still noticed her desire for the finer things in life. The way she picked up my new backpack from my ratty old twin bed, her fingers running across the LV logo imprinted in the white leather like it was a rare jewel. And I suppose to her it was. "I already told you, you can't wear the glitter shirt. This school is different. They have a uniform policy." She studied me through her long lashes. "That's why you look like a doll." The navy blue pleated skirt was itchy and hung just above my knees. My mother said it complemented the navy blue blazer and white polo that I was also forced to wear, but I didn't see it. All I saw was one of my dress-up dolls preparing to play a part. "All right, let's put this on," and my mother's eyes lit up as she hooked my backpack straps through my arms. "It's perfect. You look perfect." "I don't feel perfect," I mumbled to my reflection. My mother dusted the lint off of my shoulders. "Well, you need to start There are going to be a lot of positive changes around here for the next few weeks, and I need your support, okay? I nodded. She knelt down to eye level and pushed a runaway auburn curl behind my ear. No more secondhand clothes, understand? No more cold baths or beans for dinner. Her smile was big but sad as she tapped my tiny nose. You're going to be the life I never had. My lips quirked up. Now, my mother rose to her feet and clapped her hands twice, the fresh white paint at the tip of her nails shining like a new diamond. Let's get the princess to her new castle, shall we? Yes! Her excitement was contagious. I grabbed her hand and we made our way through our tiny one-bedroom apartment. I also have another surprise for you, my mother said as she unlocked the front door. Mommy has a new friend who's been kind enough to give us a ride today. I need you to behave, okay? I nodded. We stepped out onto the wooden porch, and my eyes immediately flew to the shiny red SUV parked a few feet away. Inside, an older man, maybe in his mid-40s, with salt and pepper hair and a tight smile, waved at me. There was no happiness in his dark eyes, no kindness in the way he introduced himself. The man's name was Joe, and as I soon learned, he would give us everything our hearts desired. He also killed our hearts in the process. Ammonia, fresh linen, and the sound of a wrapper tearing open pulled me out of whatever comatose state I'd been in. Disoriented, I could still hear their feet padding throughout the room, instruments dropping against a metal tray. Where am I? And the even more pressing question, what were they doing to me? Someone let out a low curse, and an instrument clattered onto a tray. Oh, God, what did Hannibal Skecher do to me? I swallowed slowly, hoping no one saw. Out of sight, out of mind, I kept repeating that phrase over and over in a bid to remain. All I would remember was seeing his face coming closer, the demonic sketches of women, some clothed, some not, bloody appendages galore, limbs barely hanging on. Just thinking about it was enough to send me into a full-blown panic attack. I was born and raised in a small country town where everyone knew everyone, and the gossip mill ran rampant. The talk of the town usually revolved around underage pregnancies or the latest prostitute to take up the corner on Broad Street. That was the closest to screwed up as any of us ever saw. Until I saw him, that is. Did you watch the case? A feminine voice asked. A deep voice popped in seconds later. Are you kidding? Everyone in America watched the case. I felt a sharp tug at my elbow. You think she was telling the truth? What do you think? The deep, somber voice asked. He did it. No matter what anyone in this godforsaken world believed, he did it. I know he did. And I had made it my lifelong goal to prove it, so no one else had to endure what my family did. There was a moment of silence, and then the woman murmured, I think if she was telling the truth, she wouldn't be in here. Exactly. A few minutes later, I heard a door shut and a different set of footsteps enter. The sound of a lab coat brushing against the counter and a file opening forced me to crack open my eyes. The bright overhead light blinded me for a second, and I squinted, catching a glimpse of an old man dragging a stool toward my bed. No, 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 no. He wasted no time getting comfortable, propping his penny loafers on the bed railing. I know you're awake, Gabrielle. The cameras caught you moving around while you were getting your stitches, he said matter-of-factly. You had a bit of a nasty fall when you passed out, but no matter. In a week's time, you'll be good as new. So that's what they were doing. Not wanting to feel like a bigger idiot, I opened my eyes all the way and studied Dr. Does his name tag say? Fulton? Dr. Fulton, he answered as if reading my thoughts. You can call me Dr. Fulton, or Doc. It doesn't matter to me, whatever you're comfortable with. Glancing at the photo that he was now splayed out on my bed, he said, You were court ordered to undergo a psychiatric evaluation. You failed, obviously, or else you wouldn't be in here. He did it! I blurted out, and Dr. Fulton didn't acknowledge my claim as he continued to flip through page after page, checking for anything of vital importance. Hey, did you hear me? I asked after 10 seconds had passed. Normally, I was a well-behaved Southern girl, my manners impeccable, but after everything that had transpired in the last 6 months, my patience had worn a bit thin. The way Dr. Fulton ignored me, practically writing me off before I even had a chance to defend myself. No, like a vampire, my body rose from the bed and my eyes snapped to his direction. Slamming my hand over whatever paragraph held his attention, and I shouted, Stop reading those lies and listen to me. Joe wants to be rid of me, okay? I know the truth. He murdered my sister. I jerked my hand back and gestured toward the messy papers. All this is a cover-up to save his own ass. Dr. Fulton offered a tight smile. Is that right? And it was the way he said it, like I was a lying toddler, that sparked a fury deep within my bones. His bushy gray eyebrows lifted as he asked, And who is Joe? Is he in here? What? Is Joe an imaginary friend? He continued, whipping an ink pen out of the breast pocket of his white lab coat. All humor was gone. His gray eyes had turned serious. Do you talk to him every day, or does he only come around when your anxiety hits its peak? I blinked. Joe is my stepfather. The man you accused of murdering your sister, correct? Not daring to look up, he went on. You know it's not nice to lie, Gabrielle. I'm not lying. The state of North Carolina would beg to differ. His words, so devoid of emotions, were like a knife to my chest. I wanted to cry. That seemed like a reasonable response that no one would have shamed me for, but I didn't. Because I got the feeling that was what Dr. Fulton wanted, to see me weak and use it as a driving force to confirm what Judge Wexler already believed. No, I wasn't giving him the satisfaction. Closing my file with a swish, Dr. Fulton uncrossed his legs and rose to his feet. In the 48 years I've been practicing medicine, I've dealt with many of your kind, girl. You're selfish, entitled. You could try to convince me of your innocence, but I think we both know your words will fall on deaf ears around here. An arrogant smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Here at Hawthorne, you will receive the tools to help navigate your way through life. Our primary goal is to get you mentally stable enough to re-enter society. There was an unspoken challenge in his eyes as he leaned forward and whispered, I can't make any promises, though. I don't need your help. Each syllable was dripping with acid. I didn't know anything about Dr. Fulton except that he was a doctor, and if his behavior was any indication, an asshole. He was just like the others. Judge Wexler, my attorney, and even my own mother. They all thought I had checked out, so to speak, and felt the only way to check me back in was to have me committed. All because I told the truth about the wrong person, Joe. Most mentally ill people are not aware they're mentally ill. Dr. Fulton stated on his way out the door, "Sometimes it takes more than a diagnosis for patients to see the big picture." Now in the hallway, he looked over his shoulders. "Do you have any questions for me before I get the nurse to escort you to your room?" My emotions were all over the place. Part of me was thrilled that I had gotten away from Joe, and part of me was angry that he had escaped justice. He was probably at our 6 bedroom estate, slumped back in an overstuffed recliner, sipping on a beer as he celebrated his victory and counted his millions. And I was here, all because I told the truth. And where was Elizabeth? 6 feet under, because she had attempted to tell the truth. When I didn't speak, Dr. Fulton walked away and Nurse Klein entered seconds later, a pair of black scrubs tucked under one arm. The last time I'd seen her, her platinum blonde hair had been pulled into a tight bun at the top of her head, showcasing the enchanting bone structure of her heart-shaped face. But she had since released the bun and her platinum curls were splayed out over her small shoulders. She didn't look a day over 30 and was gorgeous, reminding me of the pianist Charlene at the country club my mother always dragged me to every Sunday after church. "You're not going to make a run for it again, are you?" she asked, squinting. "I cut you some slack last night because you weren't fully in the system yet. But if you run away and again, I will be forced to sedate you and place you in solitary." Sedate me for running? My eyes widened slightly at the thought of a giant needle ripping through the muscles of my butt. Taking the black scrubs from Nurse Klein, I shook my head and murmured pathetic, "No." "That's what I thought." 10 minutes later, I found myself trailing behind Nurse Klein, dressed in the hideous scrubs that were deemed mandatory to separate us from medical personnel. Joe had drilled it into my mother's head early on that sophisticated women wore skirts and dresses, and my mother, being the weak woman that she was, had conformed to his demands, making sure I'd followed that rule for the last 8 or so years. Because of that, I wasn't prepared for the fabric riding up my crotch as I made the dreaded walk of shame through Hawthorne's main hallway. "Keep up, Evans," Nurse Klein quietly scolded. I took in the scene to make sure the coast was clear and tugged at the fabric, hugging my crotch. "I'm not used to these pants," I said. "Religious parents?" I tugged at the fabric again. "Something like that." Nurse Klein's face screwed up, but she didn't push the issue any further, and I immediately felt like an idiot for bringing it up in the first place. Stupid, stupid, stupid. On my right wrist was a medical ID bracelet with my name, birthday, current medications, none, and my room number. Seeing my information below Hawthorne Asylum was the cherry on top of an already crappy 24 hours. "There are 3 floors at Hawthorne: Floor A, Floor B, and Floor C. Floor A is for patients with mild diagnosis. Floor B is for patients with moderate to severe symptoms." Nurse Klein paused and peeked over her shoulder at me. "And Floor C is reserved for severe patients who could possibly be a danger to others or themselves. You will be on Floor B." How lovely. Like yesterday, everything was white. The floors, walls, nurses' stations, nurses' scrubs. The only exception was a buff security guard who was wearing his typical blue policeman garb. At the center of each patient door were room numbers. My heart started to really pound as we approached room number 19, the room I had sought refuge in last night. I had held on to hope for the last 20 minutes of Nurse Klein's patient orientation that Hannibal Sketcher and I would be on different floors. That ship had sailed off, apparently. Aside from his strange fascination with morbid sketches, I had no reason to despise patient number 19. But during my 3 or 4 minutes trapped in his room, I had shown weakness by fear. I could have remained calm and opened the door, set myself free, but I didn't. I'd elected to let the fear consume me, just as I had when my stepfather, Joe, went off on one of his rampages. The sad thing about it was, patient 19 hadn't been shouting at me or throwing things. All he had been doing was walking toward me. A simple act that sent alarm bells going off in my head. This really couldn't get any worse. Or could it? Stopping at the nurse's station, Nurse Klein threw one arm to the right. The right side of the hall is for male patients. Her left arm flung to the left. The left side is for female patients. All patient doors must be open during the day at all times. You are not allowed to go into other patients' room without their permission. Nurse Klein stressed the last part. If you are given permission to do so, you are not to touch anything inside of the room unless they tell you it is okay to do so. Personal space is very important around here, as you'll soon come to find out. Okay, that seemed fair. I liked my personal space as much as the next person. My gaze shifted to the massive dry erase board nailed into the wall behind her. There were 24 numbers in numerical order with dates and yellow stars in square boxes. I held back a snort. What is that for? I had an idea, but I needed confirmation that I was about to be treated and rewarded like a 5-year-old. Nurse Klein glanced over her shoulder. Oh, that is the HP board. She looked back at me. Every day should you behave and participate, you will be awarded a star. Just like kindergarten, I mused. Somewhat, but kindergartners don't get to go home after a month of straight stars. She nodded at the HP board. They do. Home. I had been close to yawning, but was now suddenly intrigued with the childish yellow stars. Seeing the hope enter my eyes, Nurse Klein let out a heavy sigh. You would only be allowed to get out for the weekend. You would be allotted a 2-day pass to spend with your family. Family. Spend a weekend with the same family that had put me in here in the first place? Spend the weekend with Joe? Those stars represented freedom, but at what cost? My sanity? That was why I was in here in the first place, because everyone thought I had lost my mind, and the reward for gaining my mind would be losing it all over again. Seemed like messed up from where I was standing. The only good that would come from it would be getting to investigate something I had wanted to do for 6 months, but hadn't been given the opportunity. After the murder, Joe had put a deadbolt on Elizabeth's bedroom, preventing everyone, even my mother, from going inside. He claimed it was to make the transition easier, but I knew better. There was something in Elizabeth's old room that he didn't want anyone to see or find. I just didn't know what. Nurse Klein pointed at room number 18 on the HP board. That's you, Evans, number 18. You can start collecting stars tomorrow. You need to get in that room. I clenched my fist and nodded. My eyes falling to the floor beneath me. All I needed was one pass, one chance to rummage through Elizabeth's things for something the police might have missed. And I was going to get it. Oh, yes. And then Joe would get his. All right. Nurse Klein clapped once, dragging me out of my thoughts. I'll take you to your room and you can get settled in. I'm sure you want to get a little rest before your first day tomorrow. Where is my voice going, y'all? Sorry about this. Almost done with this chapter, though. My room was at the very end of the hallway, directly across from Hannibal Sketchers. Of course. The Fates weren't satisfied with my public humiliation from the previous day, so they'd made it their mission to remind me of said humiliation every day. Rolling my eyes, I dragged my feet behind Nurse Klein, shaking my head at the irony of it all. I could have been number 13 or number 2, but no. My room was small, around 8 by 10 feet, with white walls and one twin bed. There were a few shelves nailed into the wall closest to the door to put my things on, whatever they allowed me to keep. Before I forget, Nurse Klein patted down her scrub top and pulled out a folded up note. Here is your daily schedule. Part of your therapy requires getting in a routine. If you have any questions, come by the nurse's station. I nodded. Okay. As per the rules, the door to my room was still open long after Nurse Klein had fled. I spent most of my first night pacing back and forth, getting used to my new surroundings. The true extent of Judge Wexler's punishment didn't come until they called lights out over the intercom, and seconds later, my door slammed shut. Anxious, I crawled into bed and briefly closed my eyes and attempted to relax. But the feeling was fleeting when my finger brushed across a piece of paper tucked under my bed. All right, remember to be calm, Evans. Yes, be cool. For all you know, it could be trash. Right, maybe the janitor had forgotten to toss it after the last patient was released. Yanking the piece of paper out from my pillow, I walked over to my door and squatted down. There was a small crack of light, not a lot, but just enough to see what was on it. Shit, it wasn't trash, but it sure as hell felt like it. What I had originally thought was paper turned out to be a thick piece of parchment. Sketch paper. All of the wind was knocked out of me. The strokes were so precise and drawn with a purpose. A girl who bore a striking resemblance to me was lying in front of a door, a sword shoved right through her chest. My hands began to shake. Her mouth was barely open, blood spilling through the corners and down her neck. She was clothed, thank God, but that didn't make me feel any better. Her outstretched arms were reaching out to someone, something which had obviously failed to help her. A lump formed in my throat, and I tried to swallow it, but couldn't. I felt cold and numb, laid bare for the entire world to see. And above all else, I felt weak. Bada boom, bada bang. There you go, ladies. And if there's any gents on here I missed, what y'all thinking? My sister-in-law just sent me just help my neighbor bury a rolled up carpet in the woods. Her boyfriend would have done it, but he's out of town. I'm gonna finish this. This is good, y'all. All right. So, who do I have left? I have my regular gang in here now. Tempi, you still on here? Okay. Alrighty. So, everybody have a great weekend. I've got my little man this weekend, so he's gonna drive me crazy and make me feel old all weekend. And I guess I will see you guys next Wednesday. Everybody have a great weekend and happy May. Happy reading, everybody.